attract a top 10 man, that one in a million man, that needle in the haystack. Now, what do I mean by a top 10 man? Well, for you, the woman watching and listening right now, a top 10 man may be a millionaire or a man changing the world or a powerful CEO, an investor. It might be just a great family man. Whoever it is, it's a man who's got his life together. You know, it's a man that society would consider a top 10 man, the man who's in that top 10% of society. And to help me show you how to attract that top 10 man, I'm joined today by John Gray, the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It sold more than 50 million copies. In fact, it may have sold more than 50 million copies. I'll clarify that with him right now. John Gray, welcome, sir. Great to have you here.
Well, thanks. It's a real pleasure to be with you on the show again. And this is a great topic.
And how many books has Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus sold now? I keep saying 50 million, but it's probably more than that now, right?
Well, I'd say I'm a top 10 guy without even all those book sales. The books keep selling, but so it's probably creeping up there a bit more.
Yeah, well, congratulations on the success. I read it for the first time back in like the mid-90s, and it still holds true to this day. So congratulations, and thank you for educating me on my journey of understanding love and men and women. So, John, what I found in coaching hundreds of women on how to attract ultra-successful guys is that there seems to be a different set of rules that apply to dating when it comes to, you know, like what I said at the beginning, these top 10 men. You know, the average man may maybe settle for a certain type of woman, but someone who's perceived to be super successful, top 10% of guys maybe won't settle. So how are the rules slightly different from what you found in years of coaching men and women?
Well, you know, there's a huge distinction in people. People are all different. And then we got men and women, and we have our own different values. And what happens is when you look at top 10 men, this can be really misinterpreted because often our society, as you said, our society goes by how much, often in society is how much money someone makes. And so many women say it's not about the money, but it is about security. And that's a really key thing for most women. Now, some women, it is about the money, and that's okay. That's their value system. I remember coaching one woman who left her husband when he lost all his money. And I said, you know, that means you married him just for the money. And she said, I did. I also love him, but I had a ceiling. I said I wasn't going to build love in a relationship where there wasn't a lot of money. And I would say that's a superficial woman. And she said, I am. And there's no judgment there. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to mention. Now, when we're looking at you're looking at top 10 men. Let's go to the top 1% of men, because really that's the one who are making millions and millions of dollars.
Yes.
There's a price you pay to be in a relationship with one of those men. And this is important because we're going to talk about the seven main tips. And one of the most important tip for the quality of partner you pick in life or you get in life is going to be based upon the old adage in real estate. Location, location, location. It's who are the people you're surrounding yourself with? Where are you putting yourself? And for women particularly, the dating process, finding a man, having a man find you is actually more important. So you have to present yourself in places where a guy will be drawn to you. But when you're looking for a very, very financially successful man, and that's one of your top requirements, if that is, and I know lots of people listening that's not, but let's just cover that one. Generally speaking, the more financially successful a man is, the less he is going to be available for all of your emotional needs.
Wow, that's interesting. That's fascinating.
And you need to look at a man with lots of money. What does it take to produce money? Is a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of drive, a lot of focus. And these men literally don't have the time to provide for certain women. And that's
so there's a trade-off there, isn't there, John?
Yes,
so if you want the man, I've just finished reading a fascinating book, Evolutionary Psychology by Professor David Buss. And he's talking about how inherently, this is going back to ancient times, women are attracted to a man who can provide resources. Now, in today's society, we call that money, obviously, because that provides security, that provides safety. So the woman can, be safe for her life and potentially for her offspring. So I guess, you know, according to David Buss, at least the professor, it's a very primal instinct, isn't it, for a woman to be attracted to a powerful man, a man of resources?
This is biological. And I like the term resources because women are still attracted to a man with resources. But as women have evolved and we're no longer primitive people, women's resources they're looking for a man differ. And the more independent a woman is, the less she depends on a man for financial security. So that's not a resource that becomes really, really significant. Now,
Yes.
if we go back to an age of just 100 years ago, where women were not as nearly as financially independent, they didn't have the opportunity. Society set it up where she was dependent on a man's resources. Even then, there was an evolution where women began to get in relationships based on love. Love is key. However, they always have had to have a prerequisite, and that's still true today. Women say to me again and again, I'm not into finding a man with money. It's like that's a gold star for her. I don't care about the money. The money is not important to me, except if he's broke.
Yeah, exactly. Except if there are no resources, except if he's not providing resources.
That's right. So it's important because, there's sort of an idea of the gold digger, the money grubber, whatever, or the superficial woman who wants money. And so women don't want to be associated with just wanting a man with money. But the better term for it is financial security.
Yes.
Is that women particularly feel a much greater biological need for resources that provide security for her. Because the survival of our race was dependent upon when women would make babies, they could not protect themselves. They could not access resources as easily, and therefore they needed a partner. And men, basically who could provide that were more attractive to her. And therefore, when a woman feels the need for a man that he can deliver for her, a hormone is produced, and that hormone is called oxytocin. It is the trust hormone.
Yes.
And it increases her attraction for a man. And it's very interesting that I hear stories again and again of women who are with men who pursue them. And those women did not find that man attractive in the beginning, but he won her over. This is a whole story of that she begins to bond with him as he meets her needs. So he's able to deliver those resources. And that's really, really important for men to understand as well, which is if you persist, and I'm not talking about stalking, but, but if you persist, there is, and actually literally provide her emotional needs. And that's a key thing today, which is the more independent women are, the less they get turned on by a man with money. And instead, they're more turned on and bond with a man.
Yeah.
Provides a kind of attentiveness, a presence, a consideration. But we're not talking about the sensitive man here, because that can be a huge turnoff. This is very confusing for men and for women, because they find these men who are really sensitive and caring and attentive and help out. I'm doing this and we're going to share everything. And then she starts feeling like his mother.
Yeah.
And this is the overly sensitive man who really is considerate. He's often called a placater. Often he was raised with a mother who was needy. You really couldn't make her happy. And so his whole life is on some level driven to make women happy, when one of the most important things that men have to understand and women have to understand is that no one can make you happy. We have to make ourselves happy. And whenever when we're not happy, we should not blame. We feel like they're not making me happy because we experience on a very kinesthetic, real level is in relationship. People have the power to make us happy, but it's an illusion. Just like when the sun moves across the sky, it's not really moving. We're moving.
Well, I think then if the woman who's watching and listening right now has convinced herself that the top 10% of the men in the world can make her happy, then we should give her some strategies to do that. But ultimately, she must know that she is ultimately responsible for her own happiness, just like a man is responsible for his happiness.
And
obviously.
And that's step two. Location is to find the right guy. This
Yeah.
next most important thing is to recognize she is responsible for her happiness. It's not my responsibility. And when I realized that, it took all the tension out of my relationship. And when I help women understand this about men, it takes the tension out of it. And certainly for single women, it makes them much more attractive to men because men have the experience over and over and over. You know, I was so excited to be with her. And then she started telling me all these problems. And then I started giving her some good advice. And I thought everything was going to be fine. And then she had all these problems again.
Yeah.
So, he thinks that no matter what I do, she's not going to be happy. And this is this faulty thinking that we have the power to make somebody happy. We can make them happier, but we also have to learn how to support them. This is the key thing, how to support them and finding their own happiness. And for me to be unhappy because my wife's unhappy one day is absurd. That only makes her more unhappy. So women need a safety, and women today particularly need this sense of security and safety that I can be all parts of me without some guy taking it personally. Now,
Yeah.
the wealthy men, okay, let me just come back to wealthy men.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's a big issue. You got, self-esteem is one thing. Everybody, we want somebody with good self-esteem. But what happened to me when I became ultra wealthy is even long before that, once I could fly first class in airplanes, I remember the first time I went first class where you pay like 4 or 5 times more for a ticket, and maybe 10 times more than some of these discount tickets. And I had my first class seat. I was going in there. I felt on top of the world. And then they told somebody else was in my seat. So I asked the stewardess to have her leave and the person leave. And they had the seat too. So they said, we made a mistake. We're going to have to put you in coach. And this is a long time ago, back on planes when they had smoking sections.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not smoke either. And the only seat was in a smoking section. So it doubled my pain. I remember this other part of John Gray coming forward. I'm sitting in that seat, furious, enraged. And the thoughts I never had thoughts like this, but it was like, I didn't say it. But I said, do you know how much money I make? Do you know what I pay for that? Huge arrogance would come forth, which makes it very hard to have an equal relationship when you have this sense of huge entitlement. And these are the challenges that we face. Now, men particularly face this sort of arrogance and this demandingness, this expectation when they make a lot of money, because everybody treats you that way, and then suddenly somebody does it. You go, do you know who I am?
Yeah.
Now that's one aspect of it. The other side of it is women who have challenges in relationships and they don't understand them sometimes is because they're in a sense natural celebrities. They didn't have to earn it by making a lot of money or having hit song or be a theater person. They're natural because their body type is the one that everybody goes, I want that.
They've won the genetic lottery, as I like to call it.
They won the genetic lottery for our society today. In other cultures at other times, they lost.
All right, John, so let's get into it then. 7 tips to attract a top 10 man. What's tip number 1?
Well, number 1 is location, is the people you surround yourself with. That's the whole thing. And if you keep going, why am I not finding a man? Put yourself in different locations. And one of the secrets here is sometimes people naively think, I want somebody who thinks just the way I do, who's just like me, when really you're often attracted to somebody who's different from you. So put yourself in locations that maybe you don't even like to spend that much time in, because you'll find some guy who's different from you, but you may share the same values. See, what makes a long-lasting, wonderful relationship is sharing values, but it's the differences that cause us to be attracted to each other.
So what's an example of that, John? Just say the woman's looking for a millionaire. Let's just use that example, a millionaire. What does she think about in her mind as to where will I meet a millionaire? Like, what are some places that she should go or put herself into a certain location in order to increase her odds of meeting a millionaire?
Well, once again, as I've mentioned several times, looking for a millionaire is not necessarily the best thing to do. But you never know what millionaires look like. I mean, where I live in Marin County, California, the millionaires all drive old cars. We don't want people to know we're rich. So often people who are very wanting to show off are not the people you want to be with. So, but you want to do something high end, like maybe you take a class in bicycle riding. All the millionaires ride bicycles now where I live. So you would go Mount Tam, you would join a club, and in that club, people would bicycle ride. And the woman who's really going to find the best person for her is the woman who doesn't like to ride bicycles, because she's going to find somebody different from her.
Yes.
Then go even more high end is get a job with sailing. High-end people sail. Anything in the boating industry is about sailing. Flight attendants often will find very wealthy men because they're all in first class, so you, but even better, go to a private plane where they have the private planes that come in and fill up their gas and so much. So you're hanging around those situations. It's, again, surround yourself with people who have wealth, become friends with people who have wealth, work for people with wealth. They have friends. So that would be finding that. If you want somebody who's spiritual, more spiritually minded, join different spiritual groups, but not necessarily the ones that you would be most drawn to. See, this is the whole thing, is differences will attract. There's a mystery, there's an allure, there's a chemistry that happens when somebody is different from you. And yet then you have to find out as well if there's compatibility based upon values.
Okay.
So that would be our second tip. Now I did 7 tips here.
Yeah. So number 1 is location. Obviously, put yourself in different locations. Go to places where high-end people hang out. Sailing is a great example. Bicycle riding, private plane companies, the first class section of airplanes, obviously, or spiritual groups like John suggested. So location. It's just like when you're looking to buy a house, I guess, where is the optimum place for you to find where you want to live? It's the same with if you're looking for that optimum man. So number 2 was, the second tip was compatibility. Is that right, John? What were you going to say there?
Well, what I was saying there is it all goes under location, which was compatibility and differences. So my second tip is don't be easy to get. See, that this is there's a lot of guys with money who go from one woman to another because women are drawn to these guys. And so if you make yourself easy, then you're just another woman in line. At the same time, if you play too hard to get, then you never get the opportunity to connect with him. So you have to be flirtatious. You have to get close, but not too close, which basically means don't let him into the castle yet.
Yeah.
I still remember to this day the women I never completed it with, and there's many that I've forgotten simply because I did the deed. There's something biological in men that until that seed is planted, we're still in the game.
So what's an example of not being easy to get? How much should the woman watching and listening to us right now hold off? How much should she give?
And how should she hold off? That's the whole secret to this. There's a 30-day rule that lots of people talk about. I don't like rules so much. I like insight. So you got to follow your heart. But what you say, the 30-day rule can't apply if you're with each other every day. But if you're four times a date, then you want to go longer than the 30-day rule, so to speak. So another rule is 6-7 dates or something before you go all the way. But again, it's not following a rule. It's following what you feel to be true in your heart. And so how do you find that truth in your heart? Is you go, do I want to have sex because I'm trying to get more from him? Or do I want to have sex because I'm getting so much already? There's a difference between I want to get him versus, wow, I'm feeling so supported. There are so many resources I feel supported by, as opposed to the imagination. Boy, if I was to catch this one, I would have resources. So it's like, is it fantasy or is it reality? So go slow. And when you go slow, you're all excited. You're just turned on the fact that you're with some guy that has all these resources. I mean, I get around women and they just get flustered and all around. And it's like, whoa, wait a second, I'm not even available. But the fantasy is something. So what then occurs is you want to be grounded and centered so that he earns your response.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Earn it. If it's easy, we don't bond. That's the whole secret here. So how do How do you get them to earn it? You get all hot and excited and you go, oh, I really want to slow down. What? Why do you want to slow down? I'm the king of the world. No woman's ever said that to me before. And you go, oh my gosh, every cell in my body wants to have sex with you, but you are so amazing. What I found is that if I have sex too soon, it never works out. And I think you're the most amazing guy. So yes, every cell wants to have sex with you, but this isn't the right time for me, but I'll certainly let you know when the right time is for me.
So tip 2 is don't be easy to get. Make sure you go slow, be flirtatious, and get close, but not too close. Don't let the man into the castle too soon. As John said, you know, you can incorporate a 30-day rule or a 6 or 7 date rule if you like, but ultimately,
And she said he's not going to buy the cow if he can get the milk for free.
Yeah. All right. So 2 great tips there. Tip number 1 was location. Tip number 2 was don't be easy to get. Let's move on to tip number 3, John.
Okay. Well, tip number 3, we kind of talked a little bit about before, but it's recognizing trade-offs. Every relationship has trade-offs. And so if you have somebody who's in the 1%, you're not going to get much time with them. Or if you have somebody who was a man who inherited a lot of money, you're generally going to get, not always, a lot of neediness and psychological problems. He's used to everybody taking care of him, giving to him. He didn't have to earn anything. So you'll find yourself dancing and running for him. And these relationships are a disaster. A relationship should be based on equality, but there's also a sense of the man pursuing and earning her love. That's how men bond on a biological level. When a man experiences that I've done something, I've released testosterone to make her happy, we bond with her. If I don't have to do anything, but I'm just sitting there and she's so excited to be with me, I don't bond with her. You know, this is like with all celebrities, you know, if you've had any experience of this, or if you're really good at something, if people sort of fawn on you, you go, yeah. You know, part of the dating secrets for men often is when you see a really hot woman, you know, they're often like nobody's approaching them because everybody's too intimidated. You know, go up to her with your skills and point out something not good about her. And she goes, oh, you know, here's now somebody I have to, you know, if everybody's bowing to you, you don't bond with them. Okay, so that's the third one, which is to recognize there's trade-offs.
Yeah, recognize those trade-offs. Okay, and so just before we move into tip number 4, John, recognizing the trade-offs, when do we just how do we just explain again how we recognize the trade-off and how we work out the pros and cons in our mind to actually come to that ultimate decision?
You know, it's again, it's being very clear about what your values are.
Yeah.
The more relationship, that means intimacy, sharing, connection, communication, the more important those things are to you. And you've had many experiences in relationships, you want to learn from those. The less high end a man is financially, the happier you're going to be.
So be very clear of what your values are right at the beginning, John. Is it right at the beginning, like making sure that he is aware of exactly who you are, where you stand on the moral compass, what you want, what you don't want? I mean, I guess the danger is if a woman tries to put that out too soon, it almost like sounds like she's auditioning for the job of lover or girlfriend or wife. So is there any tactics that you can suggest to try and just filter that through slowly or gradually so he understands what her values are without her saying, hey, here are my values, this is what I stand for?
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out. I certainly didn't mean to imply that a woman should tell a man her values. You don't want to do a job interview. I remember one TV show was saying, why waste time on a date just talking about chit chat? Let's get down to business. How many kids do you want, and what are your values? Oh, come on! This is not a job interview. You know, you don't want to make it an interview, although you are interviewing on some level. But so this is like another tip, and it's to know what your values are. And another tip is you just know them. If you know them, then you're not going to keep going for the wrong guys. See, if you want a top 10 person, know what a top 10 person is for you. Now, how do you achieve that knowing? Well, let's come back to location, back to real estate. when I looked for a house, I had the most amazing house because when I found it, I bought it that day. Now, the reason I could buy it that day is I knew it was right for me. The reason I knew it was right for me is I'd seen probably 100 other houses. My wife and I would every Sunday go and look at all the open houses. That was our Sunday activity. We'd walk and go look at houses and so forth. So that when a house came available, we knew that was right for us, as opposed to going through, I don't know, is it right for me or not right for me? And how do you achieve that? Now, this is a real key thing, which is the next step, is let go of desperation. So this neediness that women can have is a huge turnoff to men, and they don't realize it. And so neediness, desperation just pushes somebody away.
So that's step number 4, is it, John? Don't be needy, and let go of desperation. I mean, I can tell you as a man, and I'm sure you can tell me as you're a man as well, John, that like a needy woman is a massive turnoff. It's a huge turnoff. Just as a needy man is a turnoff for a woman. Don't worry, I've been a needy man when it comes to in one of my romantic relationships, and the woman that I was very keen on ran 100 miles in the other direction because I was needy, because I needed her love, because I needed her affection. And I was just a child to her, and she ran the other way. So I learned that the hard way. Just like you, the woman should know that you should not be needy and desperate when it comes to a man, because he's likely to run the other way as well.
Exactly. Now, the key to this is, how do you get rid of that neediness if it's there? This is a big challenge. So the way you get rid of neediness is you create a series of positive dating experiences, even with men that you're not necessarily attracted to. Now, let me give you why that's important. It's important. You don't have to have sex with all those men. I'm just saying, go out with guys. If guys are interested in you and they're pursuing you, say yes, but don't commit. Just have lots of dating experiences. So there's kind of what I would compare it to is when I was shopping for the house I live in.
Mm-hmm.
When I was looking at houses, when I wanted to buy them, I would want to know, I would inspect them. I would look at them and see what's wrong with them, see what's good with them, and so forth. But if I'm visiting someone's house, I don't look at it that way. I'm just enjoying the house. So if I invite somebody to my house, they're going, wow, what an amazing place you live in. If somebody wanted to buy this house, they'd be looking at cracks and plumbing and reports on various things. So we tend to be hypercritical when we're actually looking to buy something. So when you're dating, create a series of accumulating positive dating experiences so that when the right guy comes along, you have a positive attitude about it and you're able to see those positive qualities, because everybody's got baggage and you don't want to have to see baggage right away. Otherwise, you run the other direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So tip 4 there is let go of desperation and don't be needy. We're talking to John Gray, author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Also, just to the woman watching, I've interviewed hundreds of successful guys myself over the years, Hollywood movie stars like Brad Pitt and George Clooney, star athletes like Tom Brady, CEOs, millionaires, musicians, dozens of relationship experts just like Mr. John Gray here. And I've put all of their answers about what they look for in a woman into one system. And if you want to know more about that system and you want to have the turnkey to attracting a quality, successful man, then just click the link in this video right now or the link below the video. Also, check out John Gray's book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It sold more than 50 million copies. I read it back in the 90s, and it's still awesome to this day. It still holds true. All right, John, we've done 4 great tips there. We've done location, don't be easy to get, recognizing the trade-off and knowing, being very clear of what your values are, and letting go of desperation. Don't be needy. So tip number 5.
So the way you let go of desperation is to continue to create a series of positive dating experiences. Now, tip number 5 is an extension of that. It has nothing to do with dating, but it has to do with finding happiness inside, which we had mentioned at the very beginning is so important, that we're not looking to somebody for our happiness. Now, certainly we want a relationship. A relationship will make us happier, but we have to come from this place of fulfilled. When a man senses, and we can sense it, and I think that you can actually we now know scientifically, when a woman is happy, she's producing pheromones that actually attract men. So it's more biological. And, a man makes a decision, but as one philosopher said, the intellect is like a dot floating on an ocean of emotion, and that really everything is ruled by emotion, all of our decisions, all of our choices, and it's that emotion of attraction. That's why we call it chemistry. There's biology going on here. The biology of a woman's happiness makes her radiant, it makes her beautiful, it makes her attractive to a man. She gives him the message that he can make her happy. Even though it's an illusion that he can make her happier. So men are drawn to that. It's like an out of work man looking for a job and that pays well. And
Yeah, so I guess it just comes down to being positive and being happy. Let me give you a great example. I was on a boat cruise yesterday, John, and it was me, one other guy, and 10 women. And these women were dancing and laughing and joking and like having an amazing time. And just for the fact that they were so happy and that they were dancing and there was like just such euphoria on that boat. Me and this other guy were just smiling the whole time. Like, look at us. This is amazing. I just feel so wonderful with all this wonderful estrogen around me. And rather than say if it was a boat of 10 women who had like, you know, that famous phrase, it's like the stationary bitch face, I think it just captivated by these women being so happy and so joyful and acting in such a youthful manner. So I guess that speaks to what you're talking about, right?
It does. And the pouting look has become popular in advertising due to low self-esteem in men. Men with low self-esteem are attracted to pouting, unhappy women. It's a neurosis of being grown up with pouty, unhappy mothers. And so they bond by trying to make the woman happy. So men who have self-esteem are not drawn to pouty women.
Yeah. So if you're a pouty woman and you're prone to this to the resting bitch face, you're only going to attract psychologically damaged men. Is that what you're saying, John?
That's what I'm basically saying. So that's not your top 10 people. So you've got me. So this, to get rid of neediness, what you want to do, another level of it, is to create a life which is full and rich, so that you're not looking to a man to make you happy. You can look for a man for extra security, safety, and companionship, and great sex, and a family, all those good qualities. But you don't want to look to the man to fulfill your need to be happy. And that is dictated by this hormone oxytocin. So it means you have to surround yourself with activities where you feel supported by other people, where you have other sources of connection. Because men will get close, and then when they pull away, if you don't have other people to connect with at that time, you feel needy. Now, one of the best people to teach this, that in my opinion, help women understand how to overcome this tendency, is my daughter, my daughter, Lauren Gray at MarsVenus.com. She does blogs every week that help women with this. She calls it me time, making sure you take me time. And that's such an important aspect. You see, I just put a little plug in for my daughter.
Yeah, it was good. I like it. Good look.
So, but it's really fantastic. She does a better job at it than me because she's a woman. Okay. So that would be our next tip, is make sure you get enough me time. I want to give women now a date. When you're on a date with a guy, this is how you win him over. You're with him. It's not you. You want to be your best self. You want to feel that you're beautiful. So you have that whole side. Femininity is beauty. It's joy. It's responsiveness. But there's some words you can use that will win every man over. And particularly when you're in the whole dating process, this guy will get addicted to you with these three words, or these three sentences. One is, when he's talking, he'll be going along, he'll say something, he'll pause. At that point, if it's true, only if it's true, but then what you do is you say, wow, that makes sense. I'm telling you, every woman can try this week. A man talks, and after a moment you say, that makes sense. You'll see him perk up. He goes, okay, what did I say? So another one.
So it doesn't even matter what he says? It doesn't even matter what he says?
It does. It's just that, women, lots of things we say make sense, but women don't always say it. So it's like a man loves his wife, but he doesn't always say it. And so women understand how much they want to hear it. Men want to hear, whether they're aware of it or not. That makes sense. Another one is, good idea. These are powerful phrases. When you say to a man, good idea, he's just like, okay, what did I do? So that makes sense. Good idea. Another one is, you're right. As if you hadn't thought of that before. You're right. And he just goes, wow, I have power. I have influence. I have strength. This is what brings men up, as opposed to the more primitive woman. A man carries a heavy log for her. You know, she goes, oh, wow, you did that for me. But women can carry more than men sometimes. So what's
There was a great scene in the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where the father of the household, of all these daughters and sons and everything, and the mother was trying to influence her husband to do something, and so she dropped a few little hints to try and make him come up with the obvious solution that everyone knew was the solution. And he went, oh, I've got a great idea. We should do this. And of course, all the women went, oh, wonderful idea. What a great idea. Oh, thank you so much. And he felt amazing and powerful and inspired, just like you said. So
it's part of old-fashioned feminine wisdom, is make the guy think he decided to do that.
That's exactly right. Make the guy think that he's the one that decided to do it. I love it. I just read the 5 Love Languages book, and my love language is words of affirmation. So I love it when a woman says to me, great job, or great idea, or you're right, or oh yeah. I mean, that for me is just like, euphoria when that happens.
You know, I love the love languages, but let me give you a clue. Every man loves what you just said. Okay?
Yeah, that's true.
Every
yeah.
Man, and all 5 love languages apply to every woman. Just to know that.
Yeah, good.
Everybody wants that. And one of the downfalls is men say, oh, I feel love when people do things for me. Well, what happens is then that woman starts doing things for him and violates this whole next point. And the next point, the big secret, is never, ever give more to a man than he gives to you.
Huh. And why is that? Why is that, John? Why is that so important, not to give more to a man than he gives to you?
Because if you give more to a man than he gives to you, you appreciate him less.
Right.
And I'll add to that. This comes from, as a marriage counselor over 30 years, when women are unhappy with men and men are unhappy with women, what do they say? What women say is, I give and give and give, and I don't get anything back. It's like women have to constantly monitor themselves. Am I giving more than I'm getting? Because they don't realize it, but after a while, they start to feel resentment that they're not getting back. And when you're feeling resentful, you can't appreciate what somebody gives to you. So you've got to constantly regulate and make sure that I'm not giving more. Add to this, when a woman is giving more, she's pursuing. When you pursue a man, he sits back. This is the nature of men. Our nature is, if somebody's going to do it for us, then why bother? Then why do it? Every man has this gene that says, don't do it unless you have to do it. We do things as men because we know it works. It's what you have to do. It's, again, that thing we talked about before. Men bond when they do something. Women bond when you do something for them. So if I'm a man wanting to win a woman over, I do more than I'm getting, and I'll get more later. But for a woman, the best way she bonds with a man is to be receptive to what he does, or create situations for him to do things for her. So let me give you an example. There's a famous French novel of the woman who seduces the prince. Okay, so she wants to seduce the prince. Now she's really the evil woman because she's manipulative, and the nice woman finally gets him in the end, but she doesn't know how to get him. So the manipulative woman, the way she does it is they're out riding, and she is an expert rider, but she pretends like she doesn't know anything about riding.
Classic.
She asks for his help to teach her. He learned, and then while she's off, she kicks her horse to get him to get out of control, and she's out of control, and the guy's chasing her to try to save her, and then she falls off her horse, and he gets down. Are you all right? And in that moment, he kisses her, and they bond. That's how it happens.
I love the way that you described her as the manipulative woman, and yet you're actually encouraging the woman watching and listening to us right now to do exactly that, right? To do something similar.
That's why I point out she's consciously manipulating.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm talking about is just understanding that dynamic.
Yeah.
Which is that when a man when a man feels that he's doing something for you, then he earns your love. It comes back to if you're too easy. If you're too easy and you just love him and he hasn't done anything, then on a certain level, it's like, well, why does she love me? We have, as men, we want to earn it. So what you do is this is the way to use that principle in a non-manipulative way. You find places in your life where you need help. Women go, oh, I shouldn't need help. Yes, you do need help. That's why you're in a relationship. And so do men. Men need a job and women need someone to do the job for them. So the idea is that you don't have to become stupid. You don't have to become weak. You don't have to lie about your inadequacies, what you need someone for. You have to find them. And this is different from being needy. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm designing my house and I'm trying to figure out who I should get. Do you know a good contractor? Boom, a guy goes, hey, I know a good contractor. What is it you need? And suddenly he's solving a problem for you. Men bond when they solve problems for you.
Just a point on that, though. I know that having spoken to you previously, advice that you have given men is never try to solve a woman's problem. Always just be there to listen to her and provide emotional support, to sympathize with her problem. Yet in this case, you seem to be telling the woman that it's good to go with the man with the problem, to encourage him to try to help her and to solve that problem. So where am I getting confused, or where does it get a little bit cloudy?
It does get confusing. And let me clarify, because there's very clear answers to what you just pointed out. Men bond by solving problems. So when women talk about problems, what do men do? We interrupt and we try to solve those problems. But that's not what she's needing at that time. That's why it doesn't work. Women have a variety of needs. One of them is, who's the right contractor to fix my sinks? Who's going to, carry this heavy load for me? Who can drive me someplace so I can get something done? Whatever the need might be. That's the fusion of a relationship. Not needy, but just needing. Needy is, gee, I need your help and you're not there for me. I need your help and you never give me enough. It's always a message of not enough, as opposed to just the right amount to make me feel happier. So what we have on this distinction that you pointed out, which is men always solve problems because that's how we bond. When a woman is in a relationship with a man, just her stress levels start to increase in life. She wants to share that. She feels a need to share her feelings, not for him to solve the problem. She feels a need for him just to hear her share her feelings, because the problem she really has in that moment is she feels separated and she wants to connect. Now, in this case, I don't know if I'm making it clear for you, but when a man solves a problem, he bonds with a woman. The reason in counseling, when I help couples have better relationships, I'm teaching the men to just listen, because that will solve the problem. So that's how amazing. A man can solve her problem. So if a woman was to be on a date with a guy in the beginning, it's too soon to share your problems with him. It's just like you go on a job interview, and it is an interview, but you don't act like it's an interview, but you are getting to know somebody. You don't share all your problems with them right away. You scare them away.
Yeah. So does that mean then if the woman's trying to attract this top 10 man and she has a problem, how does she present this problem to the man in a way that she knows he will respond favorably to, and maybe will increase the attraction that he feels for her?
Yeah, great point. Which is, help me understand what you think I should do. Help me understand what this thing came up for me. I don't know what to do. Help me understand what you think I should do. Now that's one solution. Now, what makes it work, and he says, well, you got to do this and this and this. The mistake many women make is they then point out, oh, no, that won't work. You just kicked them out of the room. You built them up like, oh, you're the solution, and now I know better than you. You can't do that. But what you can do is, wow, that was a great idea. I hadn't thought of that, and then shift the subject. Don't point out to him why you're not going to follow his advice. If you are going to,
so you don't have to. The woman doesn't have to follow his advice. Probably what you're saying is, in many cases, don't follow his advice at all. It's probably the worst advice that you'll ever receive, but make sure you ask him for it and let him give it to you, and then just throw it in the garbage.
Well, part of understanding who's your top 10 guys, you get him to help you, and hopefully he's giving some good advice. Okay,
yeah.
So that would be
absolutely
good. The point is, what you just agreed with and pointed out is that You just want to be careful as a woman. How do you respond to his advice? If it's good advice you'd like to take, you go, wow, that's going to be amazing. And then make sure you let him know you did it and he feels all great. If it's advice that you're not going to take, don't stick it back in his face and say, well, that's not going to work because of this and this and this.
Yeah,
now,
great.
Another major turnoff, and this is in my Mars Venus dating book, Mars Venus on a Date. There's a whole long list of them, but here's one, which is on a date, on your dates as a woman, make sure you don't ask him more questions so he ends up talking more than you.
Yeah.
Now, the reason for that is that the way a man gets to know a woman is by hearing her, by listening to her, by connecting with her. Some women are so good at asking questions. When they're feeling nervous, they tend to say, well, what about this? And why would you think that? What do you think this? When you ask a man a question and he answers it, always make sure to respond with a, well, that makes sense. Well, that's a good idea. Well, I had never thought of that. There has to be a completion. What women can do is almost like a machine gun of questions. Well, what should I do about this? Well, why would a person do that? And why did he do this? And then you're giving a message to man that his answers are not good enough. The best thing of conversation is you go back and forth. Not to worry if he speaks less than her. You should worry if he speaks more than her. And some men, particularly alpha males, will tend to start asking questions. Well, what do you do? And what do you like? They'll go on talking about themselves and they're bonding with themselves and not her.
Yeah.
So he has to recognize is their needs. She regulates the conversation.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So just before we review all of this, John, in fact, why don't we review it right now? Let's just go over it. So tip number 1 was location. Put yourself in different locations where high-end people are going, maybe like sailing or boating. 2, don't be easy to get. Make sure you go slow and you're flirtatious. Tip number 3 was be very clear of what your values are. Don't go for the wrong guys. Know what a top 10 guy is for you. Tip number 4 was let go of desperation. Don't be needy. And the way to do that is by creating a series of positive dating experiences. Tip number 5 was create a life that is full and rich. Happy women release pheromones that are attractive to men. I used the example of the boat cruise that I went on with 10 dancing, happy, wonderful women, and I was just like captivated by them. Be joyful, be excited. Went on a date with the guy. John talked about words that you can use that will win every man over. 3 examples were, wow, that makes sense, or good idea, or you're right. What man doesn't love to hear that from a woman? Never give more to a man than he gives to you because you end up appreciating him less. And when a woman is giving more, she is the one pursuing. And when you pursue a man, the man will sit back. John, do you want to just sum up the last couple of ones that you spoke to there? You were talking about not asking more questions, so he ends up talking more. Just clarify those last 2 tips.
Well, yeah, those were just some dating advice. And that's basically, woman regulates the conversation. Women have a much bigger center in their brain that has to do with conversation. Don't be afraid of talking more than him, but you should be concerned about asking more questions. Women tend to ask too many questions and try to get the guy to talk. He'll talk if he wants to talk. You can always ask a few questions, but when he answers a question, make sure to acknowledge it. Stop the conversation for a moment. Pause and go, that's a good idea. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Well, and then try to come back with something from your life, okay, as opposed to asking another question. You don't want to keep putting the attention on him.
I know that I've been on some dates before, John, and it feels like a job interview, especially in the US. I grew up in Australia, but I've lived in the US for 11 years, and the dating way of dating is very different between the 2 countries, I found. In Australia, it's much more relaxed. You're just having a nice conversation, whereas in America, it feels like a job interview. What do you do? How much? No one's asked me how much money I make, but you can tell the questions are designed to find out how much.
To that. They lead to that. You know, my daughter Lauren, she came up with an idea, which is her best dating advice. I think she's got a lot of them. Is too much information. It's really important for a woman to sort of create conversation with too much information. So she could just basically say, I went to the grocery store today and I saw so-and-so and I was picking out my potato chips and, I don't like those potato chips, but they were awful. But then I went down the line and saw this other person and I did this and talked to them and they said this. A little extra information then gives a man something to then relate to and then say, yeah, I went to that grocery store too. You know, what I like there is this and this and this. It's the woman who stimulates all of that verbal conversation to engage him. So it's really a beautiful concept. Women are often afraid of talking too much because sometimes women do talk too much. And what they do is dominate the whole conversation rather than talking a bit, then pausing, giving him a chance to talk as well, asking one question, then coming back with a little too much information.
So yeah, great tips there from John Gray, author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Just a reminder to the woman watching and listening right now that if you'd like to check out more about this system and get more interviews like the one from John Gray, then just click on the link in the video right now or the link below this video. You get a whole lot of information and dating tips and how to find your dream man. Get great interviews with relationship experts like John Gray, and also book reviews of books like Evolutionary Psychology, which will help you understand why men think the way they do and why men act the way they do. Also, you must get a copy of John Gray's fabulous book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and he's about to tell you which website you can visit so you can check out more of his products, and also he's got seminars as well, right, John?
I do have seminars in the United States and California. I do them 3 times a year. I mainly travel around a lot, but I'm quite active at my website, marsvenus.com. I got a lot of video blogs, and my daughter actually does more than me now, and they're well produced. She's quite brilliant when it comes to relationships.
So you can see now that John is moving, passing the buck, so to speak. He's like now not promoting himself. He's now promoting his daughter. That's wonderful. Keeping it in the family, John. Good for you. Well, John, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate those fascinating tips, which have really helped the woman watching and listening right now.